video is to just give you a couple of thoughts about the current situation between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. If you've been watching the news, there has been a 6-day ceasefire. Now, the world is trying to help negotiate a longer term for this ceasefire, but the idea for the ceasefire is to be able to exchange prisoners and exchange hostages back and forth between the two sides.
Nearly 7 weeks after being taken hostage by Hamas terrorists, 24 Israeli and foreign citizens released to Israel.
I got some real tactical military challenges with any kind of ceasefire in the middle of a very protracted, very bloody conflict. Here's the problem. Everybody wants to see innocent civilians protected. Everybody in the world wants to see hostages released. I know this as well as anybody on the planet, how vulnerable civilians are if they're caught in the middle of a firefight. The problem with the war in Gaza right now is that it is an asymmetrical fight, which means there is not equal forces on borders where everybody knows who the enemy is and everybody knows who friendly people are. There is no doubt that some of the fighters take their uniforms off, slip into the crowds, and they make their way back across borders so that they can go rejoin their forces and fight all over again in the middle of a ceasefire. That's happened over the course of history. There's also no doubt that sometimes people will use forces, some military leaders that don't have a backbone will use innocent civilians to try to accomplish military objectives, meaning they will take hostages like you're seeing right now with Hamas in Gaza, and they will use those hostages to get a military advantage over the Israeli forces, because most trained professional militaries will never mow down innocent hostages in order to get to the military forces behind them. So what you have right now is the perfect scenario for a lot of people to manipulate this ceasefire and use it for a tactical military advantage. I'm not a guy who advocates continuing to roll through innocent forces to accomplish a military objective. But I do recognize sometimes when the fighting has started, you have to see this thing to its normal conclusion. And one of the best ways to do that, one of the best ways to recover hostages, and one of the best ways to make sure that the people that you're liberating are actually innocent hostages and not being used as shields or being used to manipulate the fight so that you can reconstitute some of your forces. One of the best ways to do that is fight your way through the enemy, get to the hostages while they're still alive, and liberate them, like has been done countless times on battlefields all over the world, like it's currently happening in Africa, in Ukraine, and in other parts of the world. Like the rest of the world, I want to see hostages released. I'm not sure that a ceasefire is the best way to do this, so extending the terms of this ceasefire may just make it easier for cowardly commanders, you heard that phrase correctly, cowardly commanders, to use this ceasefire to blatantly use innocent civilians and hostages to try to accomplish a military objective when they know that they are entirely outclassed, outgunned, and out-trained by the Israeli forces. So this is just a few thoughts on what's currently happening with Hamas and the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza and around the Palestinian areas in the land. Just a few thoughts for you. See you around.